Marvel Secret Wars Episode 2, and what did they do? What did the madmen do? In my review of Episode 1, I think it's fair to say I had some grave concerns about the subtext of this show, and in Episode 2, if anything, it gets much worse. I liked the acting, it had a good cast and still does. Sadly, plot holes and logic problems have crept into Episode 2. Nick Fury refusing to bring the Avengers in to help with the Skrulls. That was complete nonsense. The Skrulls are more technologically advanced than humans are. They can shapeshift and have super strength and agility. Nick Fury has learned that a group of the Skrulls intend on setting off a dirty bomb that will wipe out the entire of humanity. And he also learns that behind his back, the Skrulls have brought over 1 million of their people to Earth. The show's excuse is that he doesn't want to risk a Skrull impersonating an Avenger, as it will be bad PR. Which is clearly the larger worry when put next to the complete extinction of humanity. The Skrull's leader dislikes humanity for reasons including humans destroying the environment, which makes total sense in the context of him also wanting to irradiate the entire planet. Total sense, Marvel. Well done. You can't even manage consistent character motivations. The subtext in Episode 2, if anything, also got a lot worse, and on the whole, I don't think I enjoyed this episode very much. What Disney Marvel have done here is the truly acrobatic feat of someone jumping in with both feet and still managing to get both of them into their own mouth. So what am I reading the subtext to be? Well, in short, Disney Marvel in their infinite wisdom decided to change the Skrull from the comics. In the film Captain Marvel, in the comics they were straight bad guys, interstellar conquerors and slavers. In Captain Marvel they were changed to be refugees. So then Marvel decided to adapt another comic story, this Secret Invasion, where the Skrull tried to invade Earth by using their shapeshifting to infiltrate and take over, with the slight problem of the changes that Marvel made in Captain Marvel. The group in this Disney Plus adaptation, trying to infiltrate and take over, they chose to make refugees. In my review of Episode 1, I thought this was most likely incompetence. This seems so wildly off message for current Disney Marvel, I didn't think it could be intentional. But in Episode 2, they go further. If anything, the show doubles down on that message, and there seems to be too much subtext here to be purely accidental. It's like someone in the writing room has gone rogue. In the intro, they repeat the section from Captain Marvel where Talos refers to the Skrull as refugees.
I just want to talk. My people lived as refugees.
Captain Marvel took them off in a ship at the end of the film to try and find them a new home. Then we cut to this series, Secret Invasion, with a scene set 2 years later in 1997 in an area of London in the UK called Brixton. It seems they failed to find a new home planet for the Skrulls, so the Skrulls ended up back on Earth while S.H.I.E.L.D. kept on looking for a home for them. Now, here's where real world history comes in. The UK used to be very homogenous. There was not a lot of migration to the UK for a lot of its history. This changed in 1948, when the British government, in their infinite wisdom, decided the labour pool of the UK had been too diminished by World War II, and decided to open up migration routes for people to come to the UK. The first of these was from the West Indies and Jamaica, fellow Commonwealth members, and many of these people were veterans of the war. The British government didn't bother asking the public what they thought of this plan, or feel the need to have a referendum or put it in a manifesto or anything as foolishly democratic as that. So in 1948 the first ship arrived in the UK, a ship called the Empire Windrush, and ever after this group of people and the people that came on further ships up until 1971 were called the Windrush generation. The people were taken off the ship at the port of Tilbury and taken to London. And would you like to guess where in London they were taken? Well, I don't know if you guessed it correctly or not, but it was Brixton. Hopefully we have the British Library to tell us that arrivals were temporarily housed near Brixton. The town's Windrush Square commemorates the ship's arrival. The majority remained to settle permanently. This seems too much to be an accident now. Disney, what are you doing? We start off with a scene of Nick Fury in Brixton talking to a young Skrull who already has a London accent. This young Skrull Gravik becomes the rebel faction leader in the future, the leader of the Skrull terror faction that bombed Moscow. A rebel leader being played by a British actor from London with a minority background. We find out in this episode that after Nick Fury helped them, Talos, behind his back, brought 1 million Skrull to live on Earth without asking anybody if it was okay. He did that, and nobody, including Nick Fury, seemed to even notice. And I have to say, as a Brit, the idea of large groups of people coming into the country uninvited with maybe not so good intentions kind of hits close to home. The idea of these Skrull refugees carrying out bombings on civilian targets also hits close to home. It's all a bit Ariana Grande at Manchester Arena for my liking. In short, my thoughts on this subject are kind of complex, and this is the wrong place for them. But Disney, are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want to be doing right now? The subtext seems to be taking a position that doesn't seem to tally with Disney's brand, or who knows, maybe it does. At the Brixton meeting, Talos says, "We went looking for a home and found only violence and hate." But fast forward a few years and the violence and hate in this story is coming from the refugees towards the people that gave them a home. Disney, you appear to have made a whole mini-series where the bad guys are war refugees. I know you thanked that concentration camp that one time, but damn. And this whole thing revolves around a perceived broken promise from Nick Fury to the Skrulls. He wants the Skrulls to help defend Earth and says to them,
"This is the promise. While you work to keep my home safe, Carol Danvers and I will find you a new one."
So in short, this is all Nick Fury's fault for trusting the Skrull in the first place. Earth would have been safer with Captain Marvel on it and the Skrulls trying to find a new home on their own. I reiterate, this is a group of aliens that seem to mature as fast as humans do, but live for hundreds of years. Are many times stronger than humans, more resilient, can shapeshift and have superior technology. They have interstellar spacecraft. Disney, you've written a story where the best course of action for humanity would have been to get rid of the war refugees as fast as possible. Not getting rid of them has nearly caused the extinction of humanity. The subtext of the show is deeply xenophobic. If Nick Fury thought that this was a good idea, any of this, he must be the stupidest person on Earth. You would have thought he would have learned from the Flurkin incident, where he treated a dangerous alien species like it was a house cat and lost an eye for his troubles, but at least he's consistent. The episode covers the aftermath of the Skrulls' attack on Moscow that was made to look like the USA did it. 2,000 civilians were massacred in Moscow along with Maria Hill. The Skrull leader Gravik goes to a meeting of the Skrull High Council. The head of NATO and the British Prime Minister are both Skrull imposters, and Nick Fury didn't know anything about this either. The Skrulls replaced the British head of state and nobody including S.H.I.E.L.D. noticed. The subtext of the British Prime Minister being an infiltrating imposter is also kind of bad at a time when the current British Prime Minister is from a minority group. I guess maybe Disney wrote and filmed this before Rishi Sunak got in, because again, I can't think this was intentional commentary. The show also has a media personality, being a Skrull imposter, that seems to be a cipher for Tucker Carlson of all people, and I'm really not sure what the message of this show is supposed to be. It seems more confused than I am trying to watch it. The Skrull's main base is in Russia. They appear to have a cipher for Tucker Carlson. Is this supposed to be a nod to political interference by the Russian state? Where are they going with this? The Skrull Council mostly agreed to unite behind Gravik as a general and go to war to take over Earth and wipe out humanity, and man did the next several scenes annoy me. The American president has been summoned by European leaders to answer for America's actions regarding Russia. The president has declined to attend, and America instead sent James Rhodes to go and meet with the leaders of multiple European countries, and none of this is how diplomacy works. A leader would not summon the head of state of an ally. If it was urgent, there'd be immediate diplomatic communication through ambassadors and maybe a phone call between leaders. And Rhodes' response to the whole thing was woefully undiplomatic. When asked why the president wasn't there in person, he says this.
President Ritson has a pretty busy day job running the most powerful country and military on the face of the planet. He doesn't just hop to when summoned.
And what the hell is this writing? A quote by Robert Frost comes to mind. A diplomat is a man who always remembers a woman's birthday, but never remembers her age. And what Rhodey said, he may think is true. It may even be true. That doesn't mean it's a good idea to say it. Diplomacy is not saying that out loud, even if it is frequently how the US government acts towards its long-term allies. And Rhodey also loudly jokes about carpet bombing Slovakia, a NATO ally of the US, if their representative rolls her eyes at him again.
Slovakia rolls its eyes at me one more time, I'm going to put on the suit and carpet bomb it.
Not just hurting the representative, not giving them a public dressing down, carpet bombing an allied country of some 5 million people. After the meeting, Nick Fury calls Rhodes to arrange a meeting with him himself, and Fury jokes about the same thing. It's a laugh riot. They joke about carpet bombing Slovakia. Rhodey is quite possibly the worst diplomat I've ever seen. Almost like he has no experience to do the job properly, and the US response to a diplomatic mess was to send a superhero called War Machine. But there is a certain worrying truth to all of this. There does seem to be a strain of chauvinism in parts of the American government, an attitude of we'll go where we like and we'll carpet bomb where we like.
That old Beach Boys song, Bomberan?
When I search John McCain on YouTube, the biggest thing that comes up is you singing Bomb, 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 Iran. 744,000 hits in case you haven't checked it recently. Are you proud or embarrassed of that?
I'm proud. Look.
I would say that's not a great attitude to have. It's all very Vladimir Putin. Rhodes and Fury meet, and Rhodey will not listen to Fury's warnings about the Skrull, and there is a really awkward insertion of race politics into the show.
We owe each other. Men who look like us don't get promoted because of who our daddies know.
The reason we wrestled this power from mediocre men who don't look like us was not simply to turn around and hand it to mediocre men who do.
And what is any of this doing here? When has the MCU shown James Rhodes or Nick Fury wrestling power away from anyone? This is not something that has been demonstrated in the films as far as I can remember. I can barely even remember these two ever talking to each other. Where has this relationship come from? Did it happen off camera? Rhodes has gone there because he wanted to fire Nick Fury. He wanted to do that in person, like there's bad blood between these two. Rhodey probably only has that job in the first place because Tony Stark was his friend. That's the only reason he got a suit and became War Machine. Just what are these characters? I'm recognising them less and less. This is not a character that I know at all from reading the comics. Comics James Rhodes is fiercely loyal. He isn't a backstabber. I mean, I've never really recognised MCU Rhodey, because I still maintain he's not been well written or cast since the first Iron Man. Terrence Howard was probably the closest, and he still played the character far too soft. James Rhodes is a military man. Comic book Rhodey is 6'1" tall, gruff and built like a concrete outhouse. He doesn't mess around and he doesn't mince his words. He's a very serious man. Don Cheadle is skinny and 5'7" tall, and the oddest thing about that is the MCU have the perfect actor to play James Rhodes, and that for me is Idris Elba. He has the look, he can do a good American accent, he can do all the role requires with great skill, but Disney Marvel, in their great wisdom, cast him instead as the Norse god Heimdall. Disney have taken a great actor and completely wasted him. The Skrull do more baffling stuff, one of their people got captured in the attack on Moscow and they want to stop him talking and keep everything secret, so they break him out. The suspect though has talked to the authorities, so they do him in and leave his green alien body in some woods for anyone to find. These Skrull, it seems, truly are master infiltrators, or maybe they are, as in the last scene a Skrull woman appears to have infiltrated her way into Nick Fury's trousers. Which is a strange idea, so this Skrull woman changes her skin colour when Nick Fury is around. Does he make her do that? Isn't that wildly insulting to her? Does he say, "Honey, I love you, but I find it really off-putting when you're all green and scaly"? Or how about him saying, "You know, I've always wanted to meet Warwick Davis"? Or how about, "Sweetie, it's my birthday. I'm just going to leave this picture of Anna de Armas in a French maid's outfit on the coffee table, and if you feel like a change, that'd be spiffing, and the carpet does need a hoovering." It was established in Captain Marvel that Skrulls can change gender. Does he make a change into a cat girl? Or, oh no, not a cat boy. Should he be Nick Fury? And yeah, up until this point, I hadn't thought much about Nick Fury's love life, and now I kind of wish I hadn't.
Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat. Maybe it's time we set a little trap for Crystal Cove's knob stealer.